decided to pull our distributor back out and set the curve to something that we know what it is, because we don't know where this distributor even came from. It's doubtful that it came out of this car. And we could try and decode the tag, but it's not relevant because I already kind of took a look inside and it was not right.
Kind of contaminant in this. It's not very nice. You're gonna have to do a bunch of grinding. You want to flip this over and get the other side, or what do you want to do?
Yep. Good.
You see that bubble coming out of there?
Told you it was really difficult metal.
It is. It's welded.
Yep, that'll work. Thank you. See it there? A 15L. That's 15 distributor degrees. That's 30 crank degrees of potential advance in those slots. The math works out to, we want to have at least half as much movement in the slot. But movement is not overall. So we don't want to weld up half the slot. We want to weld up half of the amount that these moved in the slot. But since they are pretty big in diameter, they already take up half the slot. So about half of the diameter of one of these is the amount that we want to weld up. 30 degrees of advance is just, it's just the wrong setup for a light car like this. It's not a high compression engine. It doesn't really make sense. Do you know any of that stuff about timing, Buff Del Campo?
No.
No? Well, especially on turbo, the last thing we want is that much mechanical advance.
Okay.
So,
I'll take your word for it.
hey, that's because I'm so smart. Grind that down, polish it up, and get it with a die grinder. This distributor, as we rebuilt it, you want to make sure that the weights and the springs are what you like. There are two light springs. This is an original factory light spring, and then there was a heavy spring, but I've replaced it with a, you know, just a cheap spring. I had made some minor adjustments to the heavy spring, but for what we're doing, we just want two light springs so that the there's some pullback on these. We don't want a lot of spring resistance because we kind of want, once the engine's fired up, we just want all the engine or all the advance to drop in quick. But I've decided that this particular build, we have taken what used to be 30 degrees of distributor advance, welded down the slots, and we have cut them back out so that they are only going to give us a very small amount of travel. We are going to have about, I'm going to guess, maybe a maximum of like 10 degrees. Here, I'm going to hold it steady here, and you can see. So you can, that's all the more angular deflection I got there. I'm thinking that's only about 5 degrees of mechanical advance. Very minimal amount of mechanical advance. Now the thing about vacuum advance is you can know how much there is but choose not to use it, which we probably won't use it. This little 8.5 is the amount of vacuum advance that's in this pod. That would have meant that this distributor, the original design of this distributor, would have been 48 degrees, well, 48.5 degrees of advance when the mechanical advance was all on and the vacuum advance was all in. That's a lot. That would have been, you would have had to set your base timing to 0, which is really flat. Now we have just a little bit of mechanical advance. Maybe it'll make it easier to start. And some vacuum advance if we choose to use it. This pod that has the
That's a hex.
hexagonal thing, that what that is telling you is that you can get an Allen wrench and stick it into that vacuum hole. If you get the right size Allen wrench down in there, it's adjustable. And that adjustment does not change this 8.5. When it pulls, it always pulls at the 8.5 degrees of advance, but the adjustment adjusts how much vacuum it takes to make that happen. So if you put a different cam, or a different vacuum profile, or a different carburetor, or intake manifold, or different compression ratios, it's going to give you different vacuum signals. You can make an adjustment here. Now, what that adjustment should be, I got no clue. And does anybody else? They'll give you some guesses, but honestly, they don't use vacuum advance anymore. They use computers, because depending on a million different variables decides what this really should be adjusted to. So I don't know, we'll work with what we have, and we're definitely better off than where we started. Everything cleaned up, and we'll get it all back assembled and back in the car so we can run her again. About ready to install, and I've labeled it not stock, Kim 11/12/2023. Today's my birthday.
That's an easy date to remember.
Special edition. It said limited mechanical to 5 degrees.
So we can see it, okay?
So, will that still be there by the time somebody who doesn't know what happened digs into this motor? Who knows?
We can clear coat it.
You could. But I didn't clean the grease off, or I didn't clean the oil off before I wrote on it. So now if you wipe it off, you're going to take the marker off. It's just stick it in. These vacuum pods are sort of universal. This is an 8.5 right hand. It'll fit any other right-handed Mopar distributor and give you 8.5 of advance. So it is part number 3755036. If you ever needed one, or if you ever were trying to identify something, maybe that'll help you. I don't know.